Aminata was raped during the war in Sierra Leone. In 2010, for the first time since the war had ended, and 10 years after the rape took place, she was faced with the man who raped her. The hair on her arms stood up, her eyes filled with tears. Brutal memories of violence washed over her, and she almost started hyperventilating. She didn't know whether to try to run away as fast as she could, or to find somewhere where she could hide. Aminata faced the man who had raped her on a football field. She was there rooting for her local village team, and the man was there playing on the other team. Today I want to talk to you about using sports to bring together people who have been torn apart by war. Sierra Leone is a small country in West Africa. It went through a very brutal civil war, and when the war ended, the economic system and the political system of Sierra Leone was one big mess. In fact, the UN said that Sierra Leone was the worst country to live in the whole world. However, the war also did something else, something much more subtle. When kids were forced to kill their elders, and when fathers were forced to rape their daughters, it did something to the relationships between people. The traditionally very strong sense of community that had existed in Sierra Leone was completely torn apart. There's a saying in the local Creole language that goes, "Wina one fambul," and it means we're one family. Well, they were no longer one family. Now, if we look at international development, there have been various trends over the years. At the base of it all is humanitarian aid, making sure that people stay alive, that they have a roof over their head, that they have medicine and food. Next on the ladder comes what we call economic and political development, weeding out corruption, investing in education, making sure that there is a well-functioning police system that isn't abusing their powers. All this is great, and in fact, it's absolutely essential. But how can we expect a community to thrive if the people living in these communities no longer feel any connection with one another? How can we expect to improve the education level of kids, to weed out corruption, and to spur private sector growth if the relationships that were torn apart by the wars are not rebuilt? How can we expect human development if these women living in these communities are afraid to bump into the men who raped them? This is at the core of what our organization, Play 31, is doing, bringing together people across all divides from the war. I started Play 31 when I was in Sierra Leone volunteering with a local human rights organization. And I realized that we could use the amazing ability and will to move on after the war, and we could combine it with the people's love for the beautiful game, football. And we could use the two to promote reconciliation. Play 31 organizes community tournaments that bring together men and women, obviously, Christian and Muslims, Timnis and Mendes and Kissis. And sometimes we even have people coming walking all the way from Liberia and Guinea, the two neighboring countries. This is exactly how Aminata was faced with the man who raped her during one of Play 31's community tournaments. They hadn't been brought together before because while the international community had been happy to support a court that would punish those who bore the greatest responsibility for the war, there had been very little support for rebuilding relationships and starting the process of reconciliation. Now, back on the football field, a good friend came to Aminata's rescue. When this friend learned that the man who raped Aminata was there, she went all around the field and she confronted the man. The man was in complete shock when he learned that Aminata was there, and he pleaded with Aminata's friend that Aminata come and talk to him. When Aminata learned this, she was in complete shock. She was overwhelmed and she was petrified. She didn't know how to react in a situation like this. I mean, how would you react? In the end, Aminata did it. She agreed to sit down with the man and talk to him under the local peace tree, which is where people in this area normally reconcile their conflicts. When they sat down, the man immediately broke down. He had been forced into the war as a child soldier, he told her. He had been forced to commit unspeakable crimes. He had been made into a brutal killing machine when he was still just a kid. Every single day, he told her, he regretted the things that he had done. And every single day, he wished that he could change them. He ended up on his knees, crying, begging Aminata for forgiveness. Now, in a very short presentation like this, there's no way not to simplify this amazing and very, very complicated story. But the short version is that Aminata did forgive the man. They were reconciled, and they could both start the process of healing. I hope that this story has made it clear why rebuilding relationships after wars is so important. In fact, why it's the basis on which to build all other developments like schools and hospitals and good governance. Sometimes it can be something as simple as a ball that can bring people together. And in fact, football has an amazing ability to do this. I welcome you all to join the movement of bringing together people torn apart by war using the beautiful game. Thank you.